I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
What are you talking about? Parlayed? What? Did you not see Roots? Did you not read it? What the? Okay. We're telling you this history. It's our American history because you need to know so we don't repeat it. And here you come, DeSantis, trying to repeat it. Well, you know what? As long as the Smithsonian is standing, as long as there are books, as long as there are families, because remember, we didn't have books. All these stories come to us from our families. You don't call our families liars. They know what happened because their grandma told them. You, sir, I can't even say the word. You're a disgrace.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the cackling hens on The View. More specifically, Whoopi Goldberg, who is going to have a bout of fake outrage as she peddles Kamala Harris's lie about the slavery curriculum in Florida. Okay, the lie that Florida Republicans are trying to teach kids that slaves benefited from slavery in the sense that slavery was a good thing for Africans, okay, which is just not true. It's just an outright lie. It's fake outrage from the liberal media. And they're just doing this as a way to smear Republicans and DeSantis as racist, okay? They've jumped on this because they have nothing else, right? They're so desperate, okay, to paint Republicans and conservatives as racist that, again, they've ran with this BS nonsense story, okay? And Whoopi Cushion here is going to, again, have a fit, okay, a fake outrage fit, in which she's going to falsely claim that no black people had anything to do with Florida's education curriculum when it comes to African-American studies. They had nothing to do with it, right? No black person could have been involved in this, could have signed off on this curriculum being taught to children, except there's one problem, right? But I want to go ahead and play this clip of Whoopi ignorantly making these claims because, again, she's Whoopi Goldberg, who continuously and routinely makes these types of ignorant claims. I mean, they seem to be struggling quite a bit without their Hollywood writers. I mean, propagandists. Take a look.
Trying to get through everything that's happened over the weekend and what's all the insanity going on in the world. Like Wednesday, Florida's Board of Education approved what they're calling standards for African-American history. I feel like they didn't talk to any African-Americans because we could have told them about the history, and nor have anyone seemingly gone to the Smithsonian to find out anything. You know, there are all of these former slaves who have given their testimony. You can go to the Smithsonian and hear them. So apparently they all think it's a lie. But the board defended the standards. I'm sorry for laughing because it's so shocking. Vice President Kamala Harris went to Jacksonville to give her thoughts. Let's take a look.
They want to replace history with lies. Middle school students in Florida to be told that enslaved people benefited from slavery. High schoolers may be taught that victims of violence, of massacres, were also perpetrators. I said it yesterday. They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not have it.
I know I didn't say nothing the last time.
Yes.
Because I wanted to listen to what other people had to say, because when you talk about enslaved people and just the horrible things that happened to slavery, what we often forget is that slavery continued, right? So you sort of erase then Jim Crow, and you erase Reconstruction, and you erase the sundown laws, and you just start erasing the wealth gap and the inequality, and you erase the fact that while black people, maybe he taught his son how to be a blacksmith, this country was built on the backs of black labor for free.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is that more than 100 political elites in this country today have families linked to slavery. A fifth of the nation's congressmen, living presidents, Supreme Court justices, and governors are direct descendants of ancestors who enslaved people. That's how they made their money. President Joe Biden and every living former U.S. president, except for Trump, because he came from Germany, we don't know what his family was doing there, but they're direct descendants of slaveholders, including Barack Obama, because he had a white mother. So don't sit here and tell me one side of the story that black people may have had an enhancement when white people really benefited the most and continue to do so today.
About the
and
banking.
I believe that's what they are trying to hide.
Talk about all of it. Talk about the banking, that you know, if you were black, you couldn't get a loan.
Yeah.
Okay? Talk
You couldn't
about
get a home.
You couldn't get a home.
You couldn't get the vet loan.
You couldn't drink certain water from certain.
But that's why it's so upsetting when people say, but I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't own slaves. No, but you continue to reap the benefits of it. And I think if you want to, DeSantis or whoever in Florida, if you want to teach both sides of those stories, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so I want you guys to understand that apparently Whoopi Cushion did not read the actual Florida standards. Like, you can tell from the way she's talking about it, she didn't read anything at all. She doesn't know anything about it. She clearly did not look through the standards to see, oh, wait. They're comprehensively discussing slavery and all the horrors of slavery. They're going into a lot of details about what happened in the terrible conditions that the slaves experienced. Again, it's amazing how they leave that part out of it, right? They don't want to talk about that part of it, okay? And then she goes to falsely claim that, well, no black people had anything to do with this. Okay, they clearly didn't reach out to any black people and ask, except they had a black scholar who, you know, I'm going to play some audio here from in a little bit, that approved on this stuff, okay? But he's going to explain why this is wrong. I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. But I also want to mention this. You have Ascension, a.k.a. Sunny. I'm not calling her Sunny anymore because there's nothing sunny about this person, right? Ascension, right, her real name. She somehow, some way, finds a way to connect this conversation about Florida's African-American history standards to Trump's family descending from Nazis, which is what she's basically trying to insinuate here, okay? She's trying to say that Trump's family descended from Nazis, which, again, I'm not sure exactly what that has to do with anything, but she tries to say that because she's clearly upset that Trump is one of the only presidents to not have ancestors who, you know, were related to slave owners, right? And she conveniently leaves out the fact that Kamala Harris, who is her Lord and Savior, right? Her family, okay, actually had slave owners, okay? Kamala Harris is the descendant of slave owners, okay? But yet she conveniently leaves that out. She don't really want to mention that. Why is that, right? You find a way to mention that Trump is a descendant of Nazis, okay? That's what she's trying to insinuate. But she leaves out the fact that Kamala Harris's family owned slaves, okay? Again, the propaganda here is just amazing. And what's even more amazing is the fact that, again, Whoopi apparently didn't know that blacks had input on this standard that's being implemented in Florida. In fact, I'm going to play a clip here from Dr. William B. Allen, okay, who had input on this curriculum, right? He's a professor emeritus at Michigan State University, a member of Florida's African American History Standards, a work group, right? This is his interview with ABC News, who, you know, happens to, you know, own The View, right? I'm not sure how they didn't inform Whoopi that this guy had input on these standards. But anyways, I'm going to play audio clip of him discussing these standards and why Kamala Harris and these leftists are just flat out lying. Take a look.
There's been a little bit of backlash to these standards that, you know, were put out, and, you know, like you said, that, you know, these were done in open session so the public could, you know, listen or watch along. You know, what would you say to critics who say these standards have set education back?
Well, I can't answer critics whom I haven't seen or heard. The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president. and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was categorically false. It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
So you would say that you're standing by these standards, even though the vice president was very verbose yesterday.
Well, I will repeat to Mr. McCarty that I'm not claiming authorship, but I'm certainly willing to stand behind the work of my members in the task force and to stand behind the collaborative process. I have read, of course, all the standards. I am quite confident in their validity and their historical accuracy and their motivations and intent.
Amid all of this, do you think the wording should be amended?
I do not. No, I think it would be effectively to erase people's history.
This was a group effort, along with everyone on the task force. Do you have a message to people out there who maybe only consuming this news through a broadcast like ours or reading on the internet? Is there a message that you want to send to people out there about this task force and the product that it delivered to the state?
Yes, I would certainly say to people, I know that people can't engage in the in-depth research which stands behind many of the task force members and a product like this, but they need to know that it is available to them. They can read John Hope Franklin, who wrote an extensive work on the history of Africans from the 17th century well into the 19th century, which shows copious examples of what we describe. Similarly, Henry Louis Gates, whose slave narratives offer examples also, and Paul Finkelman's Encyclopedia of African American History, or the more recent work by David Hackett Fisher on African founders. And I would ask people to bear in mind that when we talk about the resourcefulness of those people subject to the oppression of slavery, we're not talking only about the United States. We're talking about people worldwide, and particularly in the islands before they came often to the United States, as well as those who came directly from Africa. We're talking about the experience of oppression and how people respond to the experience of oppression. And we want people to recognize that there's an opposite to Stockholm Syndrome. People don't necessarily simply embrace their oppressors when they're oppressed. They also react adaptively, and they find ways to make pathways for themselves, even in the presence of oppression. And that's what calls upon their resourcefulness, their resilience, and their adaptability. And from these things, we begin to see how it becomes possible for some people to see that even though people were enslaved, they made great contributions to the growing prosperity of this society.
It really blows my mind how any narrative that involves Black people overcoming, Black people being resilient, Black people being strong, still pulling themselves up despite unfavorable circumstances. And that's an understatement, right? When we're talking about slavery, anything that pushes that type of narrative, these people hate it. They can't stand it. The woke revolutionaries can't stand it. They can't stand to hear a real Black empowerment story. They want nothing but Black victimhood pushed down the throats of young Black children. And they wonder why our standards are so low. Why are there such low expectations for Black folks? It's because of stuff like this. It's because they don't want to teach Black kids anything except you're oppressed, that nothing's expected of you because everything is the white man's fault. Everything is the white man's fault, right? Ascension went on, this diatribe about how, oh my God, slavery still affects us today. The white man still benefits today. And it's like, bruh, it's been 150 some years removed. And you still boohoo, whining and crying about the white man being a so-called woman of color, sitting up here on this talk show, clearly not knowing what you're talking about. Whoopi damn sure don't know what she's talking about. And you're getting paid millions of dollars to not know a damn thing in regards to what you're talking about. But somehow you still oppressed. Somehow the white man is still, reaping all the benefits of slavery. Again, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sick and tired of the lies. This story right here, there's a reason why I've already made 3 videos about this. It's because this pisses me off more than anything, right? These people claim so bad, we want all of history to be taught. Florida says, okay, we're going to teach all of history, right? We're going to teach everything. Oh my God, we don't like the fact that you're teaching that slaves gain skills, right? And I'm like, well, I thought you wanted everything to be taught. Apparently you don't want that to be taught. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Again, they don't want black people to be strong. They don't want black people to overcome. They don't want black people to be confident that, hey, I can succeed despite whatever obstacles might be in my way. No, you can't. You're oppressed, right? Go vote Democrat, right? The Democrats are going to fix it for you. Right, the Democrats are going to fight against the white man, and they're going to fight the oppression that you're facing on a day-to-day basis because of slavery, right? Something that happened 150 years ago, something that you never experienced, right? You're more mad about it than some of the slaves were, right? These people are more upset about slavery than some of the slaves were, right? Again, it shows you just how far we've fallen as a society and just how brainwashed these people have become and how they're continuing to try to brainwash black kids into believing this nonsense. Something that, again, even our ancestors probably didn't believe. They probably didn't believe that they were oppressed, they were victims, they couldn't do anything. Hell no. They overcame in spite of. They survived in spite of. And that's the real story of American history, because it's not just a black thing. That's a story of all races. That's a story of the Asians in the Pacific that were helping build a country in the West, right? They survived in spite of unfavorable conditions. The Irish who came over here, they say they weren't slaves, right? They were indentured servants, okay? AKA, you only can be a slave if you're black, regardless of effectively you basically were a slave, right? But they say, hey, because the Irish, they weren't slaves, right? Only blacks can be slaves. But the Irish, they were discriminated against too. But they don't want to tell these stories. They don't want to actually tell all of the history and the fact that, hey, all of us have ancestors that were probably oppressed in some way. And I don't think our ancestors sat around boohoo whining and crying about it. They worked, right? They worked, they overcame, and they lived as good of lives as they could have considering their circumstances. But again, our society's become so soft. We become as soft as baby dookie, right? This is how soft we become, that we got millionaire women crying on TV, boo-hooing about how they still oppressed by the white man, right? And how slavery is still affecting them and oppressing them. It's a damn shame. It really is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.